I have previously had issues with my carburetor overflowing with fuel. Sometimes it just trickles out, barely noticeable. Other times it just gushes. So this is how I fixed it. Now, keep in mind that while this carburetor is for a dirt bike, this goes for generators, dirt bikes, motorized bikes, etc., etc. So, wide range of applications. Now, what you want to do is you want to first try to find where the fuel is leaking from in your carburetor. It usually leaks from the float bowl, so that's the first point that I'll cover. Now, usually this little gasket around the float bowl, this is an O-ring, sometimes they have gaskets or whatever. Now, usually this is damaged. This can be damaged when you take this on and off to replace the jets or what have you. So that's common. Now, the cheaper carburetors, they can have a damaged gasket like this, but yeah, that is common as well for the cheaper carburetors. Now, one thing to also check on your float bowl is usually they have like a drain plug like this or a drain screw where you unscrew it and it drains excess fuel out of like the bottom area. And sometimes that gasket right there is leaking, or sometimes it's not even fully tightened, letting a little bit of fuel leak out. So just check those two things. That's the first step. Second step, of course, is examining the float. Now, one other thing that I want to mention with the float is that this is hollow. For those who don't know, fuel goes in here, fuel goes into the float bowl, and this floats. It's exactly what it does. So this floats, and it pushes this little, pushes this little needle up into here. See that little hole right there? That's where the fuel goes down into. And so fuel goes into there, and when it fills up the float bowl enough for the float to float, it pushes that little needle up in there, blocking the fuel flow. That's what stops fuel from coming out of your gas tank. And so I have seen this a lot, especially with older carburetors, where the float actually absorbs gasoline. Sometimes it doesn't even need a hole in it. Just the plastic itself absorbs gasoline and moisture, and it fills halfway up with gas. So it's always sunk down. It doesn't float, as the name implies. It just stays there like that. Even though gas is flowing out, overflowing the carburetor, this just stays there. So that is a very common issue with a lot of older carburetors. And to fix that, you just replace the carburetor. It's as simple as that. Now, as I said before with the needle, this needle plays a very crucial role. A lot of them, especially like the motorized bike carburetors and whatnot, some of them don't allow this little needle here to fully seal properly. And so that causes fuel to overflow. And so really the simplest fix is, see this little tab here, that's what controls the needle. And so really all you do is you get a screwdriver or tweezers or a pliers, and you just bend it. You just bend it slightly. That's a little better. And so what that does is that just allows the needle to go in there, seat itself properly, and seal. There's other fuller in-depth videos on how to do exactly that, but that's primarily all that she wrote. Now, I do also want to note that if your carburetor is mounted not vertically, that can also cause issues. Now, as you see, the float goes up and down, but if it's mounted like this, it might not work properly. Now, of course, that's the same with the carburetor mounted like this, of course like this. So you want it pretty much horizontal as much as possible. None of this, none of this. Now, it can be at a slight angle like that, or, you know, kind of like that, but just keep that in mind. But yeah. Now, with that being said, fuel can also leak elsewhere on your carburetor. If you don't have the fuel line tightened properly, it can definitely leak around this little nozzle here. Fuel can leak in any of these excess tubes where it pushes excess fuel out. It can definitely leak there. Around these adjuster screws, the idle and air screw, if these aren't tight, or I don't know, the threads are damaged, they can definitely leak fuel also. So with that being said, check your carburetor. Try to find where it's leaking from. Examine all the gaskets, and look at the float, look at the little needle thing, and go from there. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully this clarified a few things for you. But yeah.